My mom let her boyfriend bag up my life into garbage bags, my shoes, my textbooks, even my soap, and said, "It's time you figured things out." I paid rent. He didn't, but sure, I'm the problem. When I got home that day, something felt off before I even stepped inside. The front yard was quiet, too quiet for a Friday. No music from Mom's Bluetooth speaker, no hum of the TV through the window. Just the sound of the wind brushing past the bushes near the porch. I pushed open the front door, and it hit me instantly. My stuff was gone. Well, not gone, but it was all there. In the living room. In garbage bags. Garbage bags. My clothes. My shoes. My textbooks. Even my little basket of toiletries from the bathroom, all shoved into cheap black trash bags like I was last week's leftovers. Mom. My voice cracked. She stepped into view from the hallway, arms crossed, lips pressed together so tightly it looked like she was holding something back. And standing right behind her, arms casually hanging at his sides, was Mark. I didn't like him from the start. The guy had that fake, too slick vibe, like a used car salesman who smelled like cigarettes and cheap cologne. I'd only been living with Mom part-time since I turned 20, trying to save money while I finished community college. I paid her rent every month. I helped out. This was my home too. What the hell is this? I asked, my voice rising. Mom exhaled slowly. We need to talk, Riley. Mark chimed in, way too calm. Yeah, this arrangement, it's not working anymore. I blinked. Arrangement? You living here, Mark said, like he was explaining a new store policy. It's putting a strain on things. We need space. Privacy. My mom didn't say a word. She just kept her eyes locked on mine, like she was daring me to raise my voice. I pay rent, I said, stepping forward. I do my part. This is my home. It was, Mark said quickly, smug. But things change. That's when I realized this wasn't about space or privacy. This was about Mark. He wanted me out. And my mother, my own mother, was letting it happen. Are you serious right now? I turned to her. You're really choosing him over me? Her jaw tightened. You're an adult now, Riley. It's time you figured things out on your own. That was rich. Figured things out? I was working 2 part-time jobs just to keep up with tuition and groceries. I was literally trying to get on my feet. And this is how she repays me? Let me guess, I said, sarcasm spilling out. Mark wants to turn my room into a man cave or something. Mark's smirk faded. Watch your tone. No, I snapped. You don't get to tell me what to do. You're not my dad. I never said I was, he shot back. But this is our house now, not yours. I turned to my mother again, begging for her to say something, to stand up for me, to at least look conflicted. But all she did was glance down and say, I need you out by Sunday. My heart dropped. Just like that. Wow, I muttered, shaking my head. You couldn't even have a real conversation. You just bagged up my life like trash. I tried to make this easy, she said, her voice cold now. Don't make it harder than it has to be. Mark reached for the door. I'll give you a minute to pack the rest. I didn't move. I couldn't. I stood there, surrounded by plastic bags filled with my entire life, wondering how I'd gotten here. Wondering when the woman who used to read me bedtime stories turned into someone who could throw me away without blinking. That night, I walked out of that house for the last time with a single backpack. I left the bags for later. I couldn't carry them all, and honestly, I didn't care anymore. Not right then. As I stood by the curb waiting for my friend Jesse to pick me up, I stared at the porch light. I used to feel safe there. Now it just looked like any other house. A stranger's house. My mother didn't even come out to say goodbye. Jesse let me crash on his couch. Not because he had space, he didn't. His place was a 1-bedroom apartment in a rundown building in Modesto, with a busted heater and paper-thin walls, but because he was the only person I could call who wouldn't ask questions. I tried to act like I was fine. Made jokes about roughing it, and not missing my mom's weird kale smoothies. But every night, when Jesse went to bed and the apartment got quiet, the truth hit me. I had nowhere else to go. No backup plan. Just a lumpy couch and a growing sense that I'd been pushed out of my own life. I replayed that last night at the house more times than I could count. I kept wondering what I missed. When exactly did my mom become someone who could stand there while her boyfriend bagged up my stuff and tossed me out? Jesse tried to lighten the mood the second night. You know you can stay as long as you need, man, he said, handing me a cold slice of pizza. But I gotta warn you, my upstairs neighbor has sex with the enthusiasm of a WWE match. I forced a laugh. Honestly, that still beats hearing Mark chew cereal. Jesse smirked. That guy always gave me weird used car lot energy. I nodded, but didn't say anything. Used car lot energy was right. But there was more. The more I thought about it, the more I realized Mark had been slowly taking over for months. It started small, telling me to turn the TV down, making passive-aggressive comments about my job, the usual. But after he moved in, things changed fast. He stopped being polite. Started acting like he owned the place. And my mom? She just went along with it. Bit by bit, I got pushed to the edges of my own home until there was no room left. I stared at the water-stained ceiling above Jessie's couch and thought about the way my mom used to be. She used to check my forehead for fevers with the back of her hand. She used to make me grilled cheese with the crust cut off when I had a bad day. Now she couldn't even look me in the eye. I should have been sad. And I was. But more than that, I was pissed. Not just at her, but at him. Mark. There was something about the way he just slipped in and started calling the shots that didn't sit right. I couldn't prove anything. Not yet. But I was going to find out who he really was. It started with a text. Just 5 words from an unknown number. Hope you're enjoying the couch. No name. No context. But I knew exactly who it was from. Mark. I stared at the screen, jaw clenched. Jessie leaned over my shoulder and read it too. Wow, that's some real high school villain energy. I didn't reply. I just deleted the message. But something shifted in me after that. It wasn't just anger anymore. It was obsession. I needed to know who Mark really was. Not just the smug guy with the smug smile. The man my mom had apparently thrown me away for. The next day, I skipped my shift at the bookstore and went full detective. I started with his full name, Mark Ryland, and ran it through every free background check site I could find. Most gave me garbage, but one flagged a list of old addresses tied to court filings. Eviction notices. 4 of them. Different cities. Same pattern, he'd move in with a woman, get mail there for a while, then things would fall apart. Every single case followed the same rough timeline. Short lease, unpaid rent, court judgment, then he was gone. I dug deeper. County court records turned up more dirt. A small claims lawsuit from a woman named Vanessa for unpaid debts and false representation. A restraining order filed by someone named Carla in Stockton. I read the statement 3 times. She said Mark had convinced her to add him to her bank account to help with bills, and within 6 months, he'd drained it dry. I sat back in Jessie's wobbly desk chair and stared at the screen. My pulse was thudding in my ears. Mark wasn't just an asshole, he was a con artist. A predator. He found women who were tired, lonely, overwhelmed, and he made himself indispensable. And then he bled them dry. My stomach turned. I thought about my mom's tired eyes, the way she looked past me as she told me to leave. I thought about how fast she had changed, how quickly she let him take over everything. He was doing it to her. I was sure of it. I sat there in silence for a long time, my fingers still hovering over the keyboard. I felt 2 things at once, relief and dread. I finally had proof that he wasn't just a jerk, he was dangerous. But I had no idea how to make her see that. Jessie came in, saw the look on my face. What did you find? I turned the screen toward him. Enough. He whistled. Damn. So, what now? I stared at the folder of PDFs I downloaded. Court records. Eviction notices. Legal names. I'm going to show her, I said. She might hate me, but I'm not letting him ruin her life. And I meant it. Even if she never forgave me. I waited until the house would be quiet. Early evening, just before dinner, when I knew she'd be home, but Mark might not be back from wherever he went all day. I sat in Jessie's bedroom with my phone in one hand and a printed folder of documents in the other, my thumb hovering over her contact. I hadn't called since she kicked me out. When she answered, her voice was flat. Hello. Hey, it's me. A pause. Riley. It was strange, hearing my name like that. Like a formality. Like we weren't blood. I need to talk to you about Mark. Another pause. Then she sighed. Riley, if this is about what happened. It's not. Or, it is, but I'm not calling to argue. Just, please, let me say what I found. I didn't wait for permission. I launched into it. The lawsuits, the restraining order, the evictions. I listed every woman's name I could find, every dollar he'd taken, every apartment he'd left behind in chaos. I read parts of one court transcript out loud, my voice shaking. He did this to them. And now he's doing it to you. For a second, I thought I heard her breath hitch. Then she spoke. Riley, you don't know what you're talking about. Mom. No, her voice hardened. You're digging into his past like some jealous teenager. He told me about those women. He warned me. Said they'd twist the truth if they ever came looking for revenge. Mom, they filed court documents. You think they all lied? I think, she said sharply, you've made it clear you can't stand him, and now you're trying to poison me against someone who's actually supported me. Unlike you. I stared at the floor, swallowing back the heat rising in my chest. I paid rent every month. I cleaned. I worked. He showed up and decided I didn't belong. She didn't respond. Then she laughed, a short, joyless sound. You're still a spoiled brat. That's what this is. You couldn't handle me being with someone who challenges you. My hand shook. That's not fair, I said quietly. What's not fair, she snapped, is you calling me with some half-baked crusade against the man I love, expecting me to throw him out because you say so. The call went dead quiet after that. I realized she'd made up her mind long before I'd even picked up the phone. I whispered, he's using you. I'm done with this, she said. Don't call me again. Then the line went dead. I sat there, phone still pressed to my ear, as if the silence might change her mind. But it didn't. The call was over. So was any illusion I had that I could fix this with truth alone. She chose him, and I was on my own. I didn't want to keep looking. After that phone call, part of me just wanted to shut it all down and move on. Cut my losses and accept that my mom had made her choice. But something wouldn't let me walk away. Maybe it was the way she sounded, so confident, so sure, like she'd rehearsed every line Mark had fed her. Or maybe it was the little detail that stuck in my head. She said he supported her. Mark didn't work. He hadn't had a job since he moved in. So how exactly was he supporting anything? That question got under my skin, and I couldn't let it go. So I went looking again. I still had access to one of my mom's old email accounts, the one we'd set up together years ago when I was helping her track bills online. She probably forgot it was logged in on my laptop. I felt gross snooping, but I kept telling myself this was about protecting her. The inbox was flooded with spam and store promotions, but tucked between them were payment alerts. Red flags everywhere. Overdraft warnings. Unusual transaction notices. A $1,200 withdrawal from her savings account labeled personal transfer. Then another. Then a credit card approval confirmation for a card I knew she never mentioned. All signed under her name, but the address? It was a P.O. box in Fresno. My throat went dry. I pulled up the credit bureau's website and used the free request option to generate a soft check. I had to guess at some security questions, but I got in. She had 4 credit cards she didn't have a year ago. 2 maxed out. 1 already in collections. And every single one of them listed Mark's name as an authorized user. I shut the laptop and sat there in Jesse's dark living room, trying to breathe. Mark wasn't just manipulating her emotionally. He was draining her financially. Probably funneling money into that P.O. box account. Probably planning his escape the second the accounts dried up. I knew how this would end. I'd read enough of the lawsuits. He'd leave her broke, humiliated, probably in debt for the next decade. Unless I stopped him. But how? She didn't want my help. She didn't even believe he was a problem. I couldn't talk to her. I couldn't reason with her. And now I was watching the wreck happen in slow motion from the outside. Jesse came out of his room, rubbing his eyes. You good? I shook my head. He's got his name on her credit. He's already draining her accounts. Jesse looked pissed. So what are you going to do? I leaned back against the couch, staring up at the ceiling. I think I have to go legal. You mean like, call the cops? No, not yet, I said. But I need to talk to someone who knows how this stuff works. Someone who's dealt with people like Mark before. I didn't want to do it, but I knew I had to. If I couldn't save the relationship with my mom, I could at least try to save her. I didn't have many people left I could call. Jesse was already letting me crash on his couch, and my other friends mostly faded after high school, when I stopped showing up to every party and started picking up every shift. But there was one name I hadn't thought about in a long time, Dan. Dan was my mom's old friend from way back. He used to come around when I was a kid, back when he worked as a cop. He retired a few years ago and started doing private investigation work. We hadn't talked in years, but I remembered one thing about him. He hated bullshit. He always saw through people. That's probably why he and my mom drifted apart. I dug through old texts and found his number. Sent a simple message. Hey, it's Riley. I need your help with something. It's about my mom and her boyfriend. Can we talk? He replied 10 minutes later. Come by my office tomorrow. 10 a.m. I'll buy the coffee. Dan looked exactly the same, gray crew cut, strong handshake, eyes that made you feel like he could see straight through you. His office was small and cluttered, but neat. Everything in its place. That made me feel a little more hopeful. After I explained everything, how Mark moved in, how I got kicked out, the credit cards, the financial drains, Dan just nodded slowly, like none of it surprised him. You got names? Dates? Anything I can work with? I've got copies of some emails, credit pull records, his old eviction stuff, even a restraining order from another woman in Stockton. Dan leaned back in his chair and let out a whistle. You did your homework. Good. I'll see what I can dig up. Give me a couple days. I nodded, fingers twitching in my lap. If there's something worse, you'll tell me, right? Kid, he said, locking eyes with me, I won't sugarcoat it. 2 days later, he called. I've got what you need. We met again, and this time, he dropped a thick manila folder on the desk. Inside were photos, statements, court records, even a mugshot. Dan had tracked down 3 former girlfriends. 2 had restraining orders. 1 had filed fraud charges that were dropped only because she couldn't afford the lawyer. He'd used aliases, fake job titles, multiple phone numbers. In every case, the pattern was the same: move in, isolate, financially drain, disappear. He's dangerous, Dan said simply. Smart enough to know the system. Slippery enough to keep his record clean where it matters. I stared at the documents, heart pounding. It was worse than I thought. But now I had proof. Not just screenshots. Not just angry feelings. Evidence. You gonna take this to her? Dan asked. I shook my head slowly. I tried that already. She won't believe me. So what's the move? I look down at the folder. I take it to someone who has to listen. You're thinking cops? No, I said. I'm thinking fraud department. I'm thinking legal channels. Because if my mom wouldn't protect herself, I had to do it for her. Even if it meant going behind her back. It started with a knock on the door. Not mine, hers. My mom's. I wasn't there, obviously. But I knew the moment it happened, because an officer from the local PD called me the next day to confirm my identity and ask a few follow-up questions. Mark had been officially reported and flagged. The documents I submitted through the fraud hotline were enough to prompt a review. Dan helped me fill out every form, carefully, quietly. We didn't accuse him of physical abuse or anything that would have required immediate arrest, but we had enough paper to raise serious alarms. Fake addresses, forged applications, bank accounts tied to other women's names. By the time the fraud team got involved, Mark was already halfway out the door. He must have sensed something. According to the officer, when they showed up, he wasn't there. But they left with copies of forged bank account activity and a sworn statement from my mom that, at the time, she didn't even realize she was signing. Then came the call. Riley. Her voice was different. Soft. Fragile. Like something had cracked open. Yeah. I need to see you. I met her at a diner near her old job, a place we used to go when I was little. She looked like she hadn't slept. Hair pulled back in a loose ponytail, no makeup, hands trembling around a cup of black coffee. She didn't even try to make small talk. I'm sorry. That was it. Just 2 words. I didn't believe you, she said. Even when the cops started asking questions, I still defended him. But after they left, I looked at my bank statements. I saw charges I didn't recognize. Credit accounts I never opened. She shook her head slowly. I let him into everything. My passwords. My finances. My life. I didn't say anything. I just listened. He took the emergency savings your dad left me. Did I ever tell you I'd kept that account hidden? He found it. Drained it. I stared down at the table, trying to keep my voice even. Where is he now? Gone. He took some cash, a pair of earrings, and my laptop. That's it. Cops said he used a fake ID to rent a car. Of course he did. She looked up at me, tears brimming now. You tried to tell me. And I called you spoiled. I let him poison how I saw you. I wanted to say it was okay. I wanted to say we'd move past it. But I couldn't. Not yet. I just wanted to protect you, I said. I know. Her voice cracked. And I chose a stranger over my own son. We sat there in silence for a long time. Eventually, she reached across the table, her fingers brushing mine. I don't expect you to forgive me. But I want to fix this. I want to fix us. I nodded slowly, 1 step at a time. Because even though the con man was gone, the damage was real. And trust didn't come back just because someone said sorry. But she said it. And for the first time in months, it felt like maybe, just maybe, I hadn't lost her completely. Life didn't magically fix itself after Mark disappeared. I was still sleeping on Jesse's couch, working nights at the bookstore, saving every dime I could to get my own place. My back ached every morning from that busted sofa, and Jesse's cat had made it clear I was encroaching on his turf. But somehow, things felt lighter. I was making progress, a little at a time. Mom and I started talking again. At first, it was short calls, just checking in. Then it turned into weekend coffee runs. She never tried to make excuses for what happened. She just showed up. And that mattered more than anything. She started therapy. She told me that on her own, one Sunday afternoon at a park near her place. Said she wanted to understand why she let someone like Mark in, why she'd shut out the one person who was actually trying to help. I need to stop confusing control with love, she said quietly. I didn't say anything right away, but I felt something unclench in my chest. We didn't try to force things back to how they were. There was no pretending the past didn't happen. She still had a long way to go financially. Mark had left her with credit card debt and drained savings. But she was facing it now, not hiding. And I was moving forward, too. 3 months after everything went down, I found a small studio apartment downtown. Cracked walls, weird smell near the radiator, but it was mine. First rent check I wrote with my own name on it felt like a milestone. Mom helped me move in. Brought pizza, made jokes about the place being charmingly vintage. She didn't cry, but I saw it in her eyes when she stepped out the door. Thank you, she said as she left. For not giving up on me. I gave her a small smile. Just don't give up on yourself. We weren't whole yet, but we were rebuilding. Slowly. One conversation, one honest moment at a time. And me? I was done waiting for people to value me. I had my own space now. My own life. And the future? It was finally mine to shape. On my terms.